Hey everyone, Leo Bond here. I'm back again today for the Best Buy Canada blog, and this time I'm taking a look at 6 different Nixon fashion watches. And if you're not into fashion watches, fair enough, but if what you value is accurate quartz timekeeping and a wide selection of different designs and styles, pretty much something for everyone, then this is going to be the review for you. And since we've got quite a few models to cover here, I'm just going to try to give maybe about a minute or so to each one. I'll let you know some of what I like about each model and some of what I don't like, and ultimately you can make the choice of what appeals to you. So the first watch that we're going to check out here is the 5130 Chrono, which is a men's chronograph watch, and there's actually a couple of pretty interesting things about this. One very good thing is that it has a 300 meter water resistance rating, so very unusual for a chronograph, but the reason for that is it actually has a screw down crown and screw down pushers. Now it's also interesting that the crown and pushers are on the left hand side, which generally would indicate that you'd wear it on your right arm, although there's no hard and fast rules for that. It is a very large watch as well. That's probably the thing I like least about it. It has a 51 millimeter diameter to the face, and that really is huge. It also is super heavy, so you really have to like a big and bold watch to go for this one. But it is stainless steel, and it's got kind of a nice gunmetal color, so I do like that as well. Now, the next watch that we've got here is called the Nixon Aero, and it's a 38 millimeter gold tone watch, and that means it's one of the smallest watches that I'm looking at today, and it's also super light. It has 50 meters of water resistance, and if you know anything about these water resistance ratings, I'm going to suggest that you keep this one dry. Now, some people might find the gold tone color scheme a little bit gaudy. I happen to actually like the really blingy look myself, but the worst thing about this watch is probably that its strap is quite rattly. It's kind of a loose strap. Still, a very simplistic look to the dial, no clutter, and overall I actually do rather like this design. Another gold tone piece that we have here is the Nixon Rerun, and once again this is a fairly small dialed watch. It's 39 millimeters, and it's also digital. In fact, it's the only digital watch that I have here in the set today, and it's got a negative LCD display, which is very cool. That just means that the numbers are light against a dark background rather than vice versa. And this watch really feels somewhat retro to me. It almost seems like it's right out of the 80s, and my biggest complaint about it would probably be that the strap itself is a bit of a rattlesnake. It is kind of loose, although that is also sort of one of its charms, so you can kind of take that either way. I wouldn't necessarily pay a lot of money for this watch, but it is a lot of fun, and it's probably one of my favorite ones here, are the ones that I have today. Next up is the Nixon Corporal SS, which is a 48 millimeter men's casual watch, and that is rather large, at least for me, but this watch does have some really cool things about it. For one, it's got this really all blacked out sort of stealthy design. It's not a military watch by any means, but I do like the blacked out look. I'm not sure if that's PVD or not, but anyway, another thing that's really interesting about this is it has one of the most interesting link configurations that I've ever seen on the bracelet. It's actually one of the coolest bracelets that I've come across. And also a very simplistic and straightforward dial. There's no day or date or any of that kind of stuff, but it is a rather heavy watch, so you do have to like the big watches in order to be able to pull this one off, or at least to not mind wearing oversized. Now, the next watch we have is called the Nixon Sentry SS, and this is a 42 millimeter casual watch with a gunmetal toned stainless steel case and bracelet. And one of the very best things about this watch is actually its 42 millimeter diameter, because that for me is a pretty much ideal size. I thought it looked good, and it certainly felt comfortable, and the overall feel of the watch, both the case and the bracelet, was one of quality. Now, as for its complications, the watch has both a day and date function. They're at the 3 o'clock position on the dial, and it's 100 meters water resistant, as well as having nicely applied hour markers, kind of in a baton style, so that kind of gives it sort of a classy look, I guess you could say. Now, the only thing that I didn't really like all that much about this watch is the shape of the hands, but that is pretty subjective and nitpicky on my part, and I'm sure that they will appeal to a good many other people. Finally, the last watch that we have is called the Nixon Sentry Leather. And basically, it's just the same exact watch, except it's on a leather strap rather than a steel bracelet. And really, the only other difference is that very nice blue dial that it's got. Actually, quite a beautiful dial there. And beyond that, all the specs and everything like that is the same. Now, what I can tell you about that leather strap is that it's very nice and thick, and it's also quite supple, and it's comfortable to wear, but I do believe it may be bonded leather, at least as far as I can tell, and you know, that may kind of aggravate some people, but overall, a very nice watch, just as well as the other version of the Sentry. And that's all I'm going to say about these here wristwatches in this video, but you can learn more about them in my complete written review over at Best Buy Canada's blog, where things are likely to get a little bit more spec heavy. So if that's of interest to you, do go ahead and check that out. But for now, I'd just like to thank you all for watching. Have an excellent day, and we'll see you soon over at the blog.